Good evening, everybody. It's Catherine from KISS, Keto It's Simple for Success, coming to you live in the KISS public group. I'm really hoping to catch some people on their Saturday and have a chat. We're here, like I said, on day 5 of our May challenge. The May challenge is all about getting really, really serious about our goals, taking a deep dive into the ketogenic lifestyle, learning about different types of foods, learning about the body, learning about hormones, learning about mindset, and just relearning really how to eat and how to eat well so that you can eat naturally, instinctively, and maintain a healthy weight and a healthy body, and that's kind of the whole plan for it. Now, all the links that you need to join the May Challenge are in the description of this video. If you're watching on YouTube, hi! I really, really hope you subscribe to the channel and click the notifications bell to make sure that you get told next time I put something on YouTube for you. Again, I'm on Facebook at the moment, live. And if you're not on Facebook with us, then you're missing out. Come and join the group. We have some fantastic experience to share. There's lots of us in there. There's people who are brand new to this way of life, people who've been eating ketogenically for a while, and a lot of really, really experienced people as well, who can provide a lot of support to you as you go through your journey. There's no such thing as a silly question in the group. We're all adults. It's a very respectful and dignified group. So hopefully, if you're looking for somewhere to talk about your way of life, then we can help you in the Facebook group. Now, some of the people on the May challenge are actually following the ebook that I wrote. It's called the 28-day meal plan. I can't remember my own book. 28-day meal plan and beginner's guide, and it's available again in the link below. The reason to invest in that book is that you simply do not have to think when you have that book. Everything is written for you: what to eat, when to eat it, your shopping lists, the whole thing. And it also gives you that beginner's guide. So it talks about ketogenic eating, talks about food windows, talks about electrolytes, talks about micronutrients and where to find them in your food, and how to eat for health as well as just weight loss, which is really, really important that we do that, and that we don't end up in depleted messes. Hi Sherry, hiya. Okay, so we are live. If you want to comment, then please do. And like I said, if you're on YouTube, you can drop a comment below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But if you want to find me really, really quick, I'm usually on Facebook, so come and find me. But I'm loving YouTube too. Okay, so tonight the topic of conversation is going to be meals, snacks, food timing, and whether, you know, how often we should be eating, because I think this is a really interesting topic, and I think it's something that a lot of people in the ketogenic community don't talk about a lot. We talk about what food we eat. We don't often talk about when we eat. And there's something really powerful in understanding the sort of natural way that a human being would eat, and talk about hunger, and talk about what happens when we follow the patterns which have been laid out for us by the food industry, and by society, and what happens when we actually let go of some of those societal norms and some of the things that the industry tells us that we should be doing. What actually happens to the body, what happens to our weight, and what happens to our health in general. So that's kind of the topic for this evening. So if you've got any questions or comments about food timing, about meal times, about snacking, that sort of thing, about hunger, that's, you know, tonight is the night to talk about it. So so yeah, please drop in and say hello if you're there. So I think we'll start off. And I want to start off with having a talk about meal times. Now, meal times are completely a social construct, and they're very much based on the sort of working day, and they come from quite a while ago, really, where people would be eating before they left, left home. Potentially, sort of this whole breakfast idea is, obviously, if you're leaving the property and you're not carrying a lot of food with you, you're going to try and have a meal or something to eat before you leave that place. And then normally, and until the 1600s, it wasn't then very common to eat until the end of the working day, when you could get back to a place where you could cook a meal and things like that. So this idea of multiple meal times in the day is very, very new to human beings. It wasn't that long ago where the vast majority of the population were actually only eating once or twice a day. So this idea of the 3 meals and the snacks and the suppers and the snacking in front of the TV is incredibly new to humans. And I'm talking, it's not even a blip in our history, it's so tiny. So it's very, very new that humans have had these multiple meals in the day. Usually, cooking a meal required, first of all, catching the food, and then multiple preparations. So you'd be skinning an animal, removing the organs, preparing the animal to cook. Then, of course, you'd have to light a fire. It would take several hours for that meal to then be ready. So meal times was an all-day event, and so there was no way that you would be able to have multiple meals in the day, because by the time you've finished preparing or finding one meal, there was no time for any more meals in the day. So humans were very much used to feasting and fasting the rest of the time, because it was certainly such hard work to prepare a meal that you couldn't do that multiple times a day. So convenience food is very much allowed, and processed food is allowed for these multiple meals during the day, because there's not so much work involved. First of all, we don't have to hunt our food for the majority of the people who are watching this. It's in the fridge, and you can go and within half an hour have a pretty decent meal ready. Now that has not always been the case, and the human body is actually not designed to be eating multiple times a day. It's only designed to eat once, maybe twice a day. If it was lucky, potentially, early humans would have gone several days without food if they were on the move, if they were following migrating herds and they had to travel for long distances, then yes, they would take small amounts of food with them. However, potentially if food was scarce, or there was a bad winter, or the herd that they were tracking had moved off, potentially it was days before humans would eat again. So this idea of breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack is completely alien to human beings. This is a completely new thing. Humans were not designed to be grazing animals. We're designed to be hunter-gatherers, feasters and fasters. And the reason that we carry body fat on our body is because we're designed to not eat all of the time. We have reserves that allow us to go days on end without having to eat. So again, let me reiterate that we are not designed to graze all day long, particularly on high carbohydrate food. That is not how we're designed to eat at all. So the idea of meal times then is a social construct, and comes from not only the working day and the gradual structuring of what we now know as the working day with breaks and everything else. The more that we have gone down that road, the more sort of structured the eating day has become, to the point where I think in France at about 12:30, I think about 80% of the population is all eating at the same time. So it's very cultural. It's very built into our culture now. And we're told, aren't we, that skipping meals is bad for us, and that we know that people, for example, who skip breakfast, it is actually statistically true that those people are more likely to eat higher amounts of food through the day and weigh more. So we know that to be the case. However, it is to do with the carbohydrates and the blood sugar dips which they have, unfortunately, that us fat burners just don't have. So it is slightly different. So yeah, the whole social construct of meal times has got nothing to do with how often the human body needs to eat, because believe me, I eat once or twice a day usually. And yeah, my body's perfectly fine. I don't need to eat any more often than that, because I'm more than capable of achieving the energy intake that I need, because the food that I'm eating for those 1 or 2 meals a day is really, really nutrient dense. It's high in fat. It has loads and loads of energy to keep me going, and keeps my body really, really healthy and energetic. So there really is no need for all these multiple meals. So let me talk to you about snacks then. Well, until the 1960s, the idea of snacks really didn't exist. Snacking has come along again. It's something that the food industry has kind of told us is something good to do, and unfortunately we've kind of gone along with it, so that the break that we get in the morning before between breakfast and lunch, that break is now seen as a time to eat food. Well, until the 1950s and 60s, no food existed between breakfast and lunch. This is a totally new thing, and the food industry has completely jumped on this idea of it being really, really good to sort of get halfway between a meal and then have more carbohydrates to keep our blood sugar high and to keep us energetic. Well, firstly, as fat burners don't need those carbohydrates to keep us energetic, because we're burning fat. And when we're fat adapted, so after those first few weeks, there is no difference in energy between when we've eaten and when we've not eaten. So we don't have those dips between meals. And in fact, after a 900 calorie high fat meal, it's very difficult to actually eat anything more before the next meal time. So we're not having these dips that other people may experience. And it does seem that the higher in carbohydrates our meals are becoming, the more reliant that we're becoming on snacks and multiple meals through the day, because of these highs and lows of blood sugar, which can give you sort of that feeling of those energy dips and things like that. So yeah, the more carbohydrates we're eating, the more often we appear to be eating as well, because we're having issues with blood sugar. So again, once we come off the carbohydrates and start eating the protein and the fat, then our body is far more capable of maintaining stable blood sugars through the day, and you won't have that sort of craving and that low blood sugar feeling which sends you running for cakes. Yeah, so Sherry says that she rarely felt full and often overate when eating carbs. Well, we've talked about this before, haven't we, Sherry? That carbohydrates actually drive us to eat more of them. So we get in that vicious circle of overeating, and then of course we get that crash as our blood sugar starts dropping a couple of hours afterwards, and we start seeking them again because our body just looks for that fix over and over. When we're not eating the carbohydrates, we're not having those dips in blood sugar, so we're feeling the same as we did just after the meal. There's no difference, but our hunger, when it does come, tends to feel slightly different. I don't know how it feels for you, but I do feel a more, I don't know, it's strange to think, but I don't tend to get the energy dips, but I'm just aware that my tummy's starting to look for food. But again, it's hours and hours and hours later than it would be if I was eating carbohydrates. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, nice of you to join us. Yeah, so for those who are just joining us now, we're talking about meal times, snacks, and food timing. So we're talking about not just what we should eat, but when we should eat. And I think it's something that we we probably don't talk about enough when we talk about healthy eating. But yeah, so we're just saying that meal times have evolved during the last few hundred years. We were saying that in the 1500s that the vast majority of the population of Europe was eating once a day because food was scarce, food was expensive, and food took a long time to prepare. So if you thought about a meal and you had to make the bread and you had to butcher the meat and you had to make the fire and you had to do all these different processes, which were very labor intensive and very time intensive as well, that you simply couldn't cook several meals a day. Potentially in the morning afterwards, you may have some bread that you made the previous day, or some food left over from the previous night before you went out to work the fields or whatever you were going to go out and do. But the main meal of the day, which had taken the women of that household all day to prepare, would be eaten then early evening time. So yeah, so this whole construct of having these multiple meals in a day is brand new in human evolution, and I think that's pretty much where we got to before you dropped in. So how do we go about relearning this? Because obviously when we start our ketogenic journey, we're still very much living in 2018, where everything tells us not only is, do we need to eat breakfast and lunch and dinner, they're still there, but there's things like these mid-morning snacks. There's things to go with our cups of tea, so there's biscuits and things like that. So every time we have a drink, then we have something to eat, or if we're drinking, that needs to provide energy for us as well. So that has sugar or calories of some sort in it, and it's just the number of times people take in food or calorific drinks during the day is absolutely mind-blowing. When you start to think about the number of times something goes into your body and gets digested, knowing that every time you do that you will release insulin, whether or not it's a high carbohydrate food or not, there will be that release because the body knows that food is coming into the system. So we will release that small amount of insulin, regardless of whether our blood sugar goes up, it will happen. So yeah, so we're just talking about the number of times that we eat during the day, and the whole idea of snacks is just purely the food industry telling us that we should be eating more often, we should be eating more food. Instead of eating huge meals, we should be splitting our meals down through the day to make sure that our blood sugar and therefore our insulin stays high all day long. Now, believe me, that is one of the worst things that we can possibly do. The human body is just not designed to eat like that. We're designed to live in a scarce environment where food is hard won, that it takes a long time to prepare, that it's really, really something that we cherish and that we think is really, really important. If you think of how much of an early human's life was spent in the pursuit of food, in the cooking of food and preparing, the preserving of food, we're talking about 90% of their time. Food is incredibly important, and I think to be mindless about food is probably the worst thing that we've done. We've stopped, hi Sharon, we stopped making it a big deal, and now it's just something that is constantly consumed and constantly just given away, and we don't think about food maybe as much as we used to. Not that I think we should obsess about food, because it's still plentiful in our environment, but it should potentially be something, instead of having 6 or 7 times a day, then perhaps all that effort from eating 6 or 7 times a day, if we put that effort and quality into 2 or 3 meals a day, then potentially we're going to get better food, we're going to be better cooks, we're going to enjoy the food more, we're going to have more money to invest in better food, because we're not eating all these different meals all the time, and potentially we are going back to how the body is designed, which is to feast and fast. Now again, I would argue that 3 meals a day is still quite a lot actually for a human, but I think when we start out, it's realistic, because when we start eating ketogenically, we have to deal with the carb cravings and the hunger and everything else that comes with that transition. However, once we go past that, we could potentially go into a more natural state of eating, where we go into that natural feast and fast. So we spend longer periods of time in a fasted state, using our body fat as our fuel, as our battery. And then when we do eat, we spend more time, and we have better quality food, and we actually think and are more mindful about what we're doing, how it will nourish us, how it will move us forward in terms of our health, rather than all these mindless meals through the day. So it's what I tend to think about, and I decided today that I would count the number of times that my family ate. So they've eaten 5 times today, and I've eaten twice, because my way of eating is very different to theirs, and there's been entire meals that I haven't eaten. And it's literally because I'm not hungry. I don't eat the carbohydrates, so I don't have those same drivers that they do have. Does the fast continue when you sleep? Yes, Sharon, it absolutely does. You still have to provide energy for your body even in sleep. So obviously your metabolism slows slightly down when you sleep, but not all the way down. So you do continue to burn body fat through the night. So yes, your fast continues. So if you were to fast all day and then go to sleep tonight, then you wake up tomorrow on your way to a 48-hour fast. And believe it or not, the second day is easier than the first day. I know that sounds bizarre, but obviously the number of ketones in the body starts to increase, and you do start to feel better. So as long as you stay hydrated, and if you need electrolytes, you replace them, then you feel great on the second day. You were out hunting today. Yeah, I hunted a wild caught salmon from my freezer today as well. So yeah, I get that we're not living in the Stone Age. I get that. But I think when we're trying to relearn about the body, then we do need to go right back to the time where this form of human actually evolved. And we are tens of thousands of years old in terms of our evolution. Nothing really has changed in terms of our brain, in terms of our body chemistry, in terms of anything really, other than we're bigger and we're fatter, and we don't have the high IQ that we used to have. So we've got a bit worse in our evolution, but other than that, not much has happened. So when we do think about how we should eat, then potentially it's good to look at our species as a whole and say, well, what are they designed to do? And we're not designed to be grazing animals, we're not. And we're not designed to be able to eat multiple times a day either. The food was too scarce. It was too hard to kill it and to prepare it and everything else. It took too long. So we were normally eating once or twice a day. So Sherry says, glad I don't have to hunt. Only thing I would come home with would be snails. I can't be running after snails. Absolutely. Well, humans are actually designed to be long distance runners, and we would be able to outrun animals, believe it or not, because we weren't very fast, but we just kept going until the animals, we kept tracking them until they were exhausted, believe it or not. So we were designed to actually be able to run down prey, which is mind-blowing, isn't it? But we are actually designed to be very fit, very active, and very healthy. So this is why we also died before 40, but we'll move past that. But these bodies that we have now, we've kind of ruined them a little bit, because when we were born to be fit and healthy and active, and to grow up on a low carb, high fat diet, which would maximize our brain power, which would keep our muscles healthy, and lean, and everything else. So yeah, so I get you don't feel like you could do it now. However, actually, we are designed to be incredibly fit and healthy, and it's up to us really to win that back, through our generations, and show people that we are a lot stronger physically than maybe we think we are. Okie dokie. So let's talk about snacking then. I think when we first start ditching carbs, I think removing snacks from people at that point, not only is it mean, but I think it's unrealistic as well. Because for those first 2 weeks, and this is why the snacks are available on the plan, on the 28-day plan, those snacks do help to replace some of the carbohydrates in the diet, particularly when people are struggling to get the fat into the meals. And we've all done it. We know that it's a gradual process of actually trying to get a meal to be more towards the 1,000-calorie mark. I mean, who does that? You know, it's only us, isn't it, who goes, oh, bit more, bit more fat. So I think when we first transition into it, it's really, really important to have snacks available, because those carb cravings are awful. And I think that the best thing that we can do is to give people those ketogenic snacks at the beginning, to say, look, if you're hungry, eat as much as you need to get through those first 2 weeks, to get into ketosis, to get that appetite suppression, which we're all enjoying. But yeah, to start off with, I don't take snacks off people because I think it's really, really mean. However, I think if you've been low carb for a while, if you've been following the KISS way of eating or ketogenic way of eating for some time, then during the May challenge is a really good opportunity to say to yourself, human beings don't need to snack. We are designed to be able to take on enough energy to last us for weeks at a time, not half an hour, weeks at a time. And every now and again, we have to actually dig into that battery and burn the fat to keep ourselves lean. This is completely normal and natural. So we do feast and we do fast. And some of the easiest ways of doing that is just to start with getting rid of the snacking during the day. So having that set 3 meals as a good starting point can be really, really good and a great step forward towards some of the real tricks up our sleeve, you know, this ability to fast and the ability to just switch on our fat burning mode at will, is one of the biggest advantages that us ketogenic eaters have. So the first step would be to ditch the snacks. That's the first step, and to get those 3 really good quality, high fat, high calorie meals that get us through to the next meal. Now, I do hear people saying that they're hungry before their next meal. Now, I get it. I get it for about a week, a month, where my hormones are just like driving me crazy and I'm hungry. And I do go with it. I'll be honest with you, I'll always tell people that when I'm feeling hormonal and I'm having hungry days, I do eat. That is not the time where I'm going to be trying to fast. Whereas this week, after my period, eating is like meh. You know, I'm not interested in food at all. So naturally, now is the time where I'm going to push the fasting, and I'm going to dig into my body fat because my body's happy to do it. The hormones aren't there. I'm not thinking I'm going to kill someone if I don't find a sweet treat in 5 seconds. Whereas there's other times where I find it really, really difficult to go without food, and I don't push it at that point. So I don't want you to think that I always do 1 meal a day or always do 2 meals a day. That's not the case. And I'll always be honest with you and say there's that 1 week a month where if it's not pinned down, I'm going to eat it. And I've always gone with that. And I think it's really important that every now and again we boost up our metabolism and we shake things up a little bit by eating loads. And I don't mean eating loads of everything. I do still eat ketogenically, because the last thing I want to do is trigger carb cravings as well. So I do eat ketogenic food, but I certainly don't restrict. But there's other times where I know that I can be a little bit more savvy about my food, and I can reduce the numbers of times that I'm eating during the day. Sometimes it's once, sometimes it's 0, sometimes I go 48 hours without eating, but most of the time I stick to 2 meals a day, and I find that that's a nice balance for the majority of my days, to have that late breakfast. And it's a big breakfast, it's the biggest meal of my day, in the middle of the day, and then I tend to have a slightly smaller but still really substantial meal early evening. My top tip is to stop eating as early as you can in the day. This is a really powerful tool. Sharon says, how long can you fast for? What's the longest you've gone? I've done 54 hours, Sharon. And could I have gone longer? Yes, I could have gone longer. I have enough body fat at the moment to do probably a 30-day fast, maybe even a 60-day fast if I wanted to. I don't want to, but the longest fast on record is over a year of not eating. Obviously the guy was pretty big when he started, and he didn't move around a lot for that year. So yes, in terms of fasting, the human body is designed to potentially go months without food, and in reality I'm sure there were times in human history where that happened, and of course people who were of poor health or didn't have those reserves would die of starvation. However, healthy humans who were able to feast, who were able to hunt, would have been able to manage for extended periods of time without a kill, and that was very, very normal, I expect, for early humans. So yeah, this idea of having to eat between breakfast and lunch, we need to really challenge that and say, well, I don't think that is how we evolved to eat. We did evolve to eat a lot, and we know that in 2018, humans are actually eating fewer calories than they were 100 years ago. So we're not eating as much now as maybe sometimes we have done in our history, and we're certainly not eating the nutrient-dense foods that we used to eat as well. In fact, we're being pushed towards nutrient-free food. If you think about low fat, low sugar, low everything is low nutrient food, which I don't know, I can't get my head around why you would drive your population towards food that doesn't actually provide them with any nutrition at all. But anyway, I digress. We're talking about this feast and fast phenomenon. So anyone who's been ketogenic for a while and starts to feel fat adapted will understand exactly what I'm meaning. When we're hungry, we eat. When we're not hungry, we don't necessarily have to eat. We do, however, need to make sure that we're maintaining this strong metabolism. And what I would say is, if you are feeling that you want to fast, that's fine. Make sure you actually fast though, and don't just end up being on a very, very low calorie diet, because the two things are very, very different. If you just end up eating 800 calories a day, then your body will drop its metabolism, thinking that there is a lack of food in the environment. If, however, you fast the body, so you eat nothing, and I'm sure a lot of you know that my opinion on fasting is 0 calories. I don't think for 1 second a 400 calorie bulletproof coffee with MCT oil, butter, and everything else in it is fasting. It's not. If you do fall into a period of fasting, that's fine, but actually fast, because fasting maintains metabolism. And in fact, after 24 hours of fasting, your metabolism actually speeds up, because it's important that you have the energy to go and find the food. So If you fast, you can maintain your metabolism, and fasting in that way, 0 calories, will also protect lean muscle mass. So it's really important that if you are thinking that you're going into a fasted state, that you don't just have nibbles of this and that, and you don't just have little meals, or oh, I don't really fancy eating, so I'll just have a snack. That's low calorie eating, and just be aware that that potentially is more harmful than fasting completely, because fasting completely, telling your body that there's no food, actually starts our survival instinct, which increases metabolism. So you actually start burning fat faster, but it also switches on a lot of our survival mechanisms in terms of our human growth hormone. So the body says, oh, heck, there's no food in our environment, there's nothing to eat, I'm going to have to go and get some. So in order to do that, I need to make the body even leaner and even stronger, even more capable. So we start to release higher amounts of human growth hormone, which is what makes us lean, what builds lean muscle mass, and actually makes our bones denser and things like that. So it starts to release human growth hormone. The other thing it does is it starts to, instead of growing cells, it starts to eat away dead cells. So anything that's ineffective or just hanging around doing not a lot, the body will start to break down those cells into energy to actually use as fuel. So that's called autophagy, and a guy just won the Nobel Prize writing about it, because the potential of the information that we're getting on fasting, on autophagy, is beyond exciting in terms of its potential, in terms of we eat cancer tumors when we start fasting. Our body literally starts to break them down. So very, very exciting, but also in terms of the anti-aging properties. So when people ask me how I've dealt with the loose skin, and believe me, after losing the equivalent of another person, there was a bit of skin to go around. And it's my fasting that has had that significant impact on the skin, because it was just hanging around. And when the body's looking for things to burn as energy, well, we'll use a bit of skin. So you do start to tighten up and to start to stop the aging process as well a little bit when we fast. So yeah, lots and lots of things the body goes into a healing phase, basically. It goes into a catabolic state where it starts to break down and heal rather than build. When we eat, it's a building mode. When we stop eating, then that's catabolic, and we start to break down the body and use it as fuel. So you can understand that if we are just constantly eating through the day, the body is constantly in a build and store mode. So we store when we eat, and we actually burn when we're not eating. So just to be aware that we don't have to go through the entire day munch. And it's significant, the difference it makes when people stop eating after it goes dark, in the evening time. That's kind of the worst time to eat anything. And yeah, so if you're still eating late at night, then potentially, if you stop that, there would be a significant impact in your weight loss and your health goals and whatever else you're doing. And the way that we stop the snacking is we get our meals right. It's so important. And this is why I'm saying to be mindful about putting your meals together. Make sure you're using the kiss plate diagram. Make sure you're actually looking at it and going, there's a really good quality source of high fat protein on my plate, and there is enough for me to sit down and be like, whoa, yeah, great. There's also natural fat on the plate, saturated fat being, for me, the most satisfying. So I'm talking about animal fats and things like that. So there's a good portion of animal fat on the plate, and of course greens as well. And of course fiber is, again, filling. It's not necessary, but it's filling, and we have green vegetables on the KISS plan. So Shan says, I ate at 10 last night. I've had loads of energy today, did lots of gardening, and haven't felt hungry at all. Absolutely. Welcome to fat adaptation, Sharon. This is exactly what it feels like. It's like Alice falling down the rabbit hole and realizing there's an entire world the other side. And yeah, so many people could feel this if they just gave it a try. So the way to get rid of the snacks is to get the meals right and to make sure that we're eating substantial meals. Remember, the things that will make you hungry are carbohydrates. So we don't eat masses of vegetables, we don't eat huge tubs of yogurt, we don't eat handfuls of berries, we don't eat bags of nuts, because these are where the carbohydrates can creep in. Obviously, watch out for processed food, watch out for restaurant made food and things like that, because it's the carbohydrates that will stimulate appetite and they will give you those cravings and that hunger. The second thing that will make you hungry is a lack of fat and a lack of protein. So if you're not eating enough, then your body is obviously going to tell you to eat more food. And believe it or not, I haven't tracked my food for a long time. Every now and again, someone will ask me, and I'll say, I'll tell you what, I will count what I've eaten today or yesterday or whatever, I'll do it. And do you know what? It is bang on every single time, about 1,780 calories. Guess why? Because that's how much my body needs. That's how much it tells me to eat. And the way that we get the body to very, very naturally fall into that pattern of taking in what it needs for its activity level and to maintain that homeostasis, that natural weight, is we just take the appetite suppressants out. So we take out the sweeteners and the carbs and the processed food. We give the body opportunity to eat protein and fat and fiber and all these micronutrients. We make it available to the body, and after a period of time, it has taken me a while to get here, but believe it or not, 18 months now in. Not that it's taken 18 months to feel like this, but it did take a while. But now I just eat when I'm hungry and I can just stop. And amazingly, I stop eating just at about 1,780 calories or whatever it is, just under 1,800 calories a day. It's exactly what my body needs at my activity right now. However, there are other days, like I said, that it does go up and down. So I have that really, really hungry time, and believe me, I can smash 3,000 calories in a day without even thinking about it. And then there's days like today where I'm just not interested. And I have eaten. I had some amazing salmon, and I had some salad and things like that. But again, that hunger's just not there. But I know that through the month, I'm bang on, and I know I'm bang on because guess what? My weight is exactly the same as it was last month. It's fine. And that comes from feasting and fasting and starting to be far more instinctive about what I eat and mindful and thinking, how can I best feed my body? If I'm not feeling particularly hungry, I know I'm going to eat. I want to provide some nutrients for my body. Let's be mindful. What shall I eat? And my big thing at the moment is omega-3s. I'm just like totally in love with salmon and oily fish at the moment. So that's the thing. Hi everybody. So that's really my discussion for day 5 on thinking about meal times. Who's told us that we have to eat at this time? Do we have to eat at this particular time? Are snacks something that humans are designed to eat or not? Or can we be more mindful, and would spending more time over fewer meals be far more healthy and far more advantageous to us in terms of our health goals? Now, I think it's quite obvious, really, that if we went back to, I'm not saying light a fire in your garden and roast everything on the spit. I'm not saying that. However, if we invested more time and effort, and maybe even money, I don't hesitate to think that there is, it does cost money to buy the sort of food that I would love to be able to eat every day. But I think that when the snacks come out of the diet, when all the fizzy drinks and the fantastic coffees and all the lovely things that the industry has told us that we have to have, Otherwise, you know, we'd fall down dead because it's been 2 hours since we last ate. I think that we can be more savvy about it. And once the carbohydrates are gone and we're far more logical around food, which is what I found anyway, that I can be far more logical around food because that carbohydrate craving isn't there, we can start to make better decisions about when we eat, and we can decide whether we're hungry or not based on better information. When we're still eating processed food, when there's still hidden carbs in our food, when we're still not eating the meat and the fat and the nutrition that actually keeps us really, really actually full, then we can go longer without food, and we don't burn body fat while there's, you know, all this lovely dietary fat coming in from the diet and everything else. Obviously, you know, we can't take on a surplus of fat, so I don't want people thinking that they can overeat fat, because that just doesn't happen. That only happens when you've got carbohydrates making you overeat. So we can be more instinctual, but I would say that you do actually need to spend a little bit of time contemplating your meal to make sure that you're getting the nutrients that you want from the meal, and that you're not going to walk away in an hour and a half be looking for food again, because, you know, that's just counterproductive, really. It's an indicator that you need to go back and have a look again at your meals to make sure that it's all there. So Sherry says, I'm certainly more able to buy better quality food as I'm not spending on crappy junk foods. Absolutely. And, you know, I know in the UK that the healthcare that, you know, we pay through our taxes rather than paying for our private healthcare, but healthcare is costing us a lot of money. And I know for me that potentially if I'd been had diabetes to the point where I wouldn't been able to work or whatever, then potentially the financial cost of not being healthy and not being well is just something that I didn't want to even think about at the time, because I'm not as well insured as the other half, and I would really, really be in a difficult situation if my health had deteriorated. So when you think of the potential cost of poor health versus the cost of buying half-decent meat and buying half-decent fish and poultry and everything else, it pales into insignificance. And the better quality the food, the less of it you need to eat, because you're going to get your nutrients. And remember, your body is craving nutrition, and it will continue to crave nutrition until you actually nourish the body. So the more grass-fed red meat you buy, the more wild-caught fish you buy, the more free-range poultry you buy, the more things like omega-3, the more nutrients, the more vitamins, the more fat-soluble vitamins, and all these things that you want from the food, the more you're getting, and the more efficient your body will be. And the smaller and smaller the amounts that you were going to have to eat are, because you're going to be eating more calories per gram, and you're going to be getting the fantastic nutrition that your body needs. And of course you shrink as well. And I think people forget that. People try feeding me as if I was still nearly 20 stone, but of course I'm not. I'm half the size. So obviously my body doesn't have the requirements that a much bigger body did. So of course there's that. So obviously the cost of food just keeps getting lower and lower. So yeah, so eat less often, yay, but eat more. Eat more, but less often, if that's, yeah. So basically, the complete opposite of what you're being told by the diet industry, by the fitness industry, by everybody else. You know, we us ketogenic eaters have rediscovered this feasting and fasting behavior of humans, and it does feel incredibly natural when it comes on. It does feel incredibly natural when it's something that you're able to enjoy because you don't have the cravings. But yeah, we're told to eat little and often to maintain blood sugar. But as we know, if we maintain blood sugar, we maintain insulin, and therefore we maintain the body's storing fat capacity. So we want to switch that off and keep it off, as long during the day as we possibly can. And when we switch it on again, we take full advantage and we get all those nutrients in, and we allow insulin to pump all those nutrients into our cells. So we take full advantage of those things that when we do it. But the rest of the time, we stay fasted, and that, you know, for me, that does mean not eating and not taking on calories from drinks and things. We stay fasted, and we get all the advantages then of that fasted state as well, which we've talked about. So yeah, that, I guess, is the message for day 5. Feast and fast. No snacking, you know, we're not grazing animals, we're hunter-gatherers. It took us 8 hours to put a meal on the table. So just take heed that we are not designed to graze all day, because, you know, you couldn't just find bits of rabbit through the day. That just didn't happen. Going to feast tomorrow, barbecue. Yeah, I'm going shopping tomorrow, and I'm going to be buying picnic food. So that might actually make a really good video. You know, a keto picnic. What do I buy to eat at a picnic? To be honest, I have no idea. I'm just going to go around Aldi and see what's there. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a picnic on Monday, because unfortunately Paul's working tomorrow, but he's off on Monday. So we're going to do a bit of a family picnic on Monday. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there for our day 5, and not sure what I'm going to do tomorrow. It could be a picnic video, but it could be something else. Who knows? Thanks, Scotch. Yeah, I don't know. I might do, but you know what I'm like on a Sunday. I cook so much food anyway that whether I'm going to be able to do Scotch eggs as well, I don't know. But we'll see what's there, and I'll see what I can wrestle up something nice for our picnic. And hopefully I can get my family to avoid all the sugar. You never know. You never know. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, tomorrow I'll be back again. I'm trying to be really, really accountable and do loads and loads of content for my May challenge, because my May challenge is to actually get KISS off and running and starting to be the success that it deserves to be, because we're an amazing organisation, we're an amazing community, and I really think that it needs to be something now and to achieve something. So that's my May challenge, is to get all my content out to the world. So that's what I'm doing anyway. But I will see you tomorrow. Possibly-ish the same time, but we shall see. I may go slightly later so I catch more of the US members, so we'll see. Depends how long I can keep my eyes open. And depends if I can get a line in on Monday morning as well. So, okay. You're welcome, Sharon, and I will see you all tomorrow. You know where I am if you need me in the meantime. Anyway, good luck with your May challenge. Keep going, ditch the snacks, feast and fast, and you will very soon be achieving everything you want to achieve. Bye.